What is up, YouTube land? This is CTHAC here with a reassembly video of our newly disassembled Nexus 4. I talked about in my last video replacing the middle phone, which is the bezel portion. It was dented and kind of chipped from the phone screen was broken in the first place. And I have our new LCD screen here, which I purchased off of eBay. It was about 80 bucks if you just type in Nexus 4 E960. And the middle bezel, which is the replacement middle phone, it does have some glue covered areas here. You can see this blue and kind of green flaps. And as we go, we'll go ahead and remove that. Help stick down some of our internals of the phone. I'll be using some 3M rubberized phone tape. This is a 1mm and 2mm. I used the 1mm for the slim side of the phone. There's a little lip on the bezel, and the 2mm is where I will use on the larger sides for more surface adhesion with the phone. So we'll go ahead and start with the 1mm and go down this side here. Just a pair of scissors to help me cut the tape. So we'll go ahead and string this out and get it cut. I do like to have a razor blade as well to help me trim the tape once I put it on. And it is a little tricky to put the tape on. You want to be a little bit careful. You don't want the tape to go up the sides of the phone. You always want it to lay flat. That way when you go to stick the LCD screen on, it doesn't pop up a little bit. You get the closest adhesion that you possibly can. So you want to take your time with the taping of the phone. It can be a little tricky to remove once you've stuck it down if you don't do it well. So a razor blade, go ahead and cut the tape to length here. It is rubber tape, so give it a good amount of force to kind of cut through it. Alright, now we'll do the opposite side of the phone. Go ahead and make sure that the tape is straight. Alright, here we go. I might see my balding head in a couple of the pictures, so please don't make fun of my balding hair. I'm very sensitive about it. Here we go. Go ahead and tape this side down here. Excellent. So I like to use the 1mm, which you can find on eBay. I think the roll was like $3, so nothing too crazy. And it saves you a little bit of hassle in having to trim the tape to kind of the width that you want it. You just have to kind of just toss it on there if it's the 1mm. We'll use a 2mm at the bottom to give us a little bit more surface adhesion. And basically the same thing. You want to make sure you're not covering up any of the holes that is necessary for the phone. So you'll see me trim just short of the 2 circles in there. And of course through that proximity sensor area down there at the bottom as well. Now, the tape doesn't seem super sticky right now, but in the end, I'm going to use a heat gun to heat it up a little bit, and it gets really tacky once you've put the LCD screen on, once we've finished completing the assembly of the phone. Like I say, make sure that the tape doesn't go up the sides of the bezel. You want to make sure that it's nice and flat, so when you put the LCD on, it lays nice and flush with the bezel. That's kind of the trick to doing this. And you see people put a ton of tape on their phones, and I've never had a screen come off if I use just a couple on the top and bottom, as long as I use some heat to kind of adhere the adhesive down once the phone has been reassembled. Now, I'm not a phone assembly pro or repair pro. I do this just for fun. So please don't hold me responsible for anything that you do to your device. But if you follow my instructions, you shouldn't have any problem. It's not super difficult to do. as long as you have a little bit of patience. The tape didn't completely cut when I was using the razor blade, so I was just chopping a little chunk out to make sure that there was no additional sticky. I'm going to put some more tape at the top, but be careful of the two camera areas here, or the sensor area. You want to cover that up. The same with the earpiece, so we're going to put a couple smaller pieces on here. We'll chop it to fit. The rule of thumb is just don't cover any pre-existing holes on the phone. You want to make sure that everything still functions once you put the LCD back on. Alright, we're almost finished with the taping. Once we finish this up, we'll go ahead and just remove all of the backing to the tape. Alright. Put a couple on the edges here. Get some nice edge adhesion. And the tape backing came off, so oopsie. Looks like we're already removing the backing to the tape. Not a big deal. You can't see the tape, but it is definitely on there. Put a little tiny piece in this corner as well, and then we'll be done with the taping. Razor blade just wasn't cutting it there, so I just trimmed it up with the scissors a little bit. Alright, now we're going to start peeling the backing off of the tape all the way around. I like to use the dental pick rather than the razor blade. This gives you a little bit more ease of use. Pull up these bottom ones. And this last side to go. Alright. Phone is nice and taped, and we're going to get ready to put our LCD on. You have the two ribbon cables at the top. You can slide in the slot right here. It can be a little tricky with the new replacement. You do also need this little piece of paper to help with the proximity sensor at the bottom. See, there's a square area you can kind of stick it on there. I say lick it a little bit, something to make it sure it sticks and stays once you start putting the LCD back onto the phone. So the ribbon cables, they have to slide right in through the slot at the top of the bezel. It gets a little tricky. It doesn't seem like they're going to fit, but they are perfectly the right size to kind of go in. This is almost one of the trickiest parts of the repair, because you want to slide them through and keep kind of the LCD off the phone where the tape is at. You want to get it stuck on there. But you still have to get them both through there nice and easy. Alright, here we go. If it gives you a little bit of trouble, you can kind of use a spudger or a dental pick to kind of push things along and move it side to side. Alright, now there's there's an edge on the inside of this that gives you a little bit of problems. I usually use a dental tool to kind of push it up and put it in through the hole. Perfect. It slid back out on me. Alright, it's being pesky. There we go. Once you get everything through, you can kind of go ahead and seat the LCD. Now this is the tricky part. You want to make sure you get it exactly where you want it. Start with the top portion first, and then kind of slide it in, work your fingers around it. Make sure the edges are where you want them to be, and give it a good press. You can do a little bit of a minor adjustment once you get the... Oh, it popped back out. Come on. Here we go. Alright, there we go. Now we'll give it some good force. Give it a nice good squeeze, and make sure the sides and the back and the front are exactly where you want them to be. Like I was saying, we'll use a heat gun to heat it up a little bit, but really this is the best time to make sure you get it where you want it. Perfect, we're looking good. Alright, brand new screen on this Nexus 4. Get rid of this really horrible liquid optical adhesive they put on the last screen that I removed off of it. Alright, now the reason why I changed the middle bezel is I'm trying to end up selling this phone. So I want to make sure it looks nice. Middle bezel is only maybe, I think it was like 20 bucks. You can find it on eBay as well. So total together with middle bezel and screen was about 100. I'm going to start prying all this blue tape off of the phone and get it ready to put the main parts back in. There's very small ones where the edge buttons kind of go in. And I end up taking this blue backing off. I got a little confused thinking it was actually tape that looks like it's kind of in the middle of the phone. You see me kind of pry at it for a second with this. It turns out you do not need to remove that. It doesn't really have any negative effect if you do, but it wasn't there for adhesive. So you can watch me fumble around like a fool here for a few seconds for your amusement. See, now I'm getting frustrated. It's really stuck on there. That should be your first clue that it probably shouldn't be removed. Kind of starting to realize now. But you know, once you already started, it's kind of like you have to win. Like it will come off now. Ha! Success. Now, like I was saying, you don't have to remove that. It's actually there to give a little separation between the main board and the backing of the phone. Alright, so getting to the good part, we're going to start to reassemble the phone and all of the pieces that we just took off in the disassembly video. If you need to watch that, I put the link in right here. You can go back and look at it. I'm going to start with the bottom of the phone, this bottom portion. It kind of slits, put the USB portion into it and slide it down and get it set. Give it a little bit of a push to get onto the adhesive now. Here's our main board. My cameras are still attached, so you want to make sure that they go into the right slot. There's a square portion where the back camera slides into. Alright, here we go. Get it in there nice and snug. And I realize I forgot to put the side buttons in, which is actually what the main board attaches to. So we're going to go ahead and put those back in. Give them a nice good push. The gold side, the gold connector goes in, and make sure the plastic button side goes out so your buttons function properly once you put your phone back together. And get the right contacts on the main board to actually function and operate. Alright, and we'll go ahead and slide this one in. You can see that there's the button sides, and the gold protector goes into the phone. Alright, now we can go ahead and put the main board in. Alright, kind of get it nice and slid in there. Make sure it's in the right spot. Seat the back camera into its spot as well. You want to make sure it fits into the hole, and be careful not to pinch the ribbon cable on it. We're going to go ahead and put in the 3.5mm jack back in. It's always easiest when you're putting this portion in to put the little kind of the board or the ribbon portion of it in first, and then kind of seat the headphone jack in there. It does get a little bit tricky, and I decided it might be easier if I remove the main board first. Alright. Now this is a very small piece, and I want to make sure that I don't hurt it since I'm in the kind of the home stretch of fixing this phone. Get a little extra pressure and force, but not too much. This portion just does not want to fit back in there. Alright, here we go. Put the main board in now. Pull these cables back. Alright, so we can start connecting things and reseat that camera. Make sure the ribbon cable isn't really pinched. It just kind of needs to fold in on that back camera. The main body has a nice little square where it sits into nice and easy. Here we go. Perfect. Alright. Make sure everything's nice and snug. Go ahead and remake the connector. So I put the 3.5mm jack connector back on, and the two LCD screen cables are going to snap back into place, back onto the main board. Perfect. And we'll go ahead and reattach the daughter board to the main board. Perfect, here we go. Snaps right into place. Alright, so here's the vibration sensor and the top portion. You want to make sure that those are still connected. Now this back bezel is going to snap back into place. It's got a couple clips around it. It does get a little tricky if you disassemble the phone. Try to get it back into place as much as possible. When you put the 9 black screws back into the back, it does hold it down nice and kind of pops it back into place. But give it a nice, good, snug fit. And this is a good sign that you've put everything back to where it's supposed to be. Everything goes down nice and easy. I'll go ahead and put the back portion in. Now, this one kind of slides in at the top portion first. You'll see me fiddle with it for a second, and then put the longer portion in, and then slide the bottom part down. And make sure it gets in there. And I realize, crap, I forgot to put the cable on that we took off. It's just not my day for fixing Nexus 4s apparently. So go ahead and pry with this for just a second to get it back off again. There we go. Alright, so the gray cable that we took off, right here, we're going to go ahead and reattach. You want to make sure that you give it nice firm pressure, but not too hard to bend the metal. These things can be a little finicky to reassemble. Alright, here we go. Give me a little problem here. Come on. There's a little area you can slide the cable back into that holds it. I would suggest doing that. Make sure it stays in place. All right, now we can put this bottom part back in. Put the top in and then slide it down into the bottom. Alright, we're looking good. Everything's looking pretty snug and secure. Go ahead and just push on the clip areas on this back portion. Make sure everything's nice and snug before we put the screws back in. Alright, let's go ahead and put the battery on. Slide it into place and go ahead and reattach the connector. Alright, let's go ahead and put both of these two flat black screws back into the battery. Now this would be a good time to power your LCD back on to make sure that it functions. I don't actually do it in this video, but it'll save you some disassembly steps if you do it before you put all the screws back in and put the back cover back on. Alright, so the battery's back in place. And the next thing we'll do is go ahead and put the screws back into the bottom. We're going to use the silver ones, and those are what came off the smaller protective portion on the bottom here, where the USB is at. We'll put both of those back in real fast. Right, here is our second. Now it's important to get these snug, but don't over tighten them. You don't want to strip them out. And that's a real problem that happens on a lot of phones. People think that you have to put a ton of force back on this, and that's not true. You just need enough to keep it snug. Alright, put the remaining 9 black screws in, and like I say, they go around kind of the edge of the main board protector. Just a few more to go. We're going to power it on, make sure the display functions. Alright, that's a good sign that it's powering off the Google logo. There's our Nexus 4 start. Excellent. We're looking good. Go ahead and finish putting the phone together. What I do like to do is originally there's a little piece of tape that goes on the gray wire that attaches on the phone. So I'm going to use some Scotch tape to tape it down. Hopefully help it from coming loose if you drop it or jar it. You don't want to have to figure out what's wrong with your phone. After dropping it, it gives you a little bit of a scare. So we'll tape it down and see if we can't get it to stick. We'll go ahead and snap our back cover on here real fast. Alright, put our two back screws on with our Torx tip. Alright, here we go. I'm pretty happy with the way that this one turned out. Looking good, nice and responsive, touchscreen's functioning. Excellent, looks like all the buttons are working for us. I'll take the protector off, and here we go. Nice, shiny new screen. Fantastic. Now, we're going to put a little bit of heat to it and kind of snug down the edges here and kind of put that 3M rubber tape on. I'd like to give it a second to seat down and make sure it doesn't come off. I touch it a little bit to make sure it's not extremely hot. I don't want to hurt the new LCD, but give it a nice snug fit to the new bezel. You'll see me kind of press down around the edges and try to get it seated as much as I possibly can. Alright, and that is it for the reassembly video. Brand new looking Nexus 4. If you missed the disassembly, go ahead and click on the link below. Post any comments that you have. I'll try to get back to you. I do have a day job, so I can't get to them all. But peace. Later, YouTube.